Welcome to the No Fun channel. I'm Felix, and this is sci-fi shows I think they should remake. And next up is Space Above and Beyond. Space Above and Beyond premiered September 24th, 1995 and ran until June 2nd, 1996. It only ran for one season for 23 episodes. It starred Kristen Cloak as Captain Shane Vance, Morgan Weiser as First Lieutenant Nathan West, Rodney Rawlin as First Lieutenant Cooper Hawks, Joe De La Fuente as First Lieutenant Paul Wang, Lanny Chapman as First Lieutenant Vanessa Damphouse, and James Morrison as Lieutenant Colonel Tyrus Cassius McQueen. The five main characters in the show each had a call sign. They were known as the Wild Cards. Captain Vance's call sign originally was Ace of Diamonds, and it was later changed to Queen of Diamonds. West was King of Hearts. Hawks was Jack of Spades. Wang was the Joker. Damphouse was Ace of Hearts. Now, in the beginning, we're introduced to them and the Lieutenant Colonel McQueen. He's their training officer, getting them prepped to learn how to fly the ships. He's getting them ready to fly the Hammerheads, which is the name of the planes or the space planes. Can't think what you would call those, but they're called Hammerheads, and he's training them to learn how to fly them. Now, one of the things to start off in the show, it starts off giving the impression that aliens do not exist, that they are all alone in the universe. So basically, they're preparing for a war with an alien species that may never happen. But, of course, we wouldn't have a show. So the premise is they're training for a war that, won't happen. But then while they're training, while everything's going on, one of the Earth colonies are attacked by an unknown entity, and it's later discovered it was attacked by an alien race. They later would come to name this alien race the Chigs, Chigs, and that's where the war begins. Now, throughout the show, we also learned that Earth had an AI war, a human versus androids. They called these androids silicates, and they were humanoid-looking androids, and they rebelled on their creators, basically. It was actually a human sent a signal out to the androids to make them rebel. Basically just did it because he was insane. And it gets really bad because androids actually go to people's homes and kill them and all this stuff. And so it's a really bad war to the point where the human race creates a new genetically engineered human race called in vitros. And basically they are grown in tanks to the age of 18. Now they actually don't take 18 years to grow, but as they're growing in these tanks, they are aged to 18, and pretty much when they come out, they're ready for combat. Now, they also, once the war's over, they have no use for them. And so they're released into society. And they end up having slurs made for them, like they call them tanks, because they were growing in tanks, and nipple necks, because that's where the umbilical cord was attached. It was to the back of their neck. So they even create slurs for them in the show. And throughout the show, we learn more and more about each character, like how many siblings, who's doing what, who's having an affair, and all that stuff. We even get to see Wang and Damphouse get closer and develop a relationship. At one point, it even shows like West and Vanson getting closer, but it never happens. And throughout the show, there's a lot of political intrigue, backstabbing, stuff like that going on. I think it's one of the things that actually appealed to me is the way they handled all that stuff. And people you thought were innocent were not innocent. It was like you find out at the end that they were the mastermind for someone's assassination, things like that. And also towards the end of the show, we discover that the human race started the war with the Chigs, or it was a corporation. So they have big greedy corporations also. Turns out they started the war. They knew the aliens were out there. They knew they were in the aliens' territory, and they didn't care. And the aliens struck back. And that's what started the war. And the aliens actually send an envoy to negotiate peace, but unfortunately, it falls apart. And McQueen actually, I believe, sets off an explosive device that injures pretty much everyone, and he's severely injured. And also, I believe their group name was the Wild Cards. They go out to save a human convoy that's under attack by the aliens. And at the end of the show, we lose Wang, Danforth, and Captain Vance. Well, the captain and Danforth, we're not 100% sure if they actually died, but they're falling to their death in what's left of a piece of a ship down to the atmosphere of a planet. So it's presumed they didn't survive. And when Wang goes, he's in the other half of the ship shooting the aliens. And while he's shooting the aliens, that half of the ship comes under attack, and you see it explode. So I'm pretty sure he died. So as the show ends, it only shows Hawks and West as the only two survivors, and it shows people coming in, clearing out everyone else's bunks, making room for the new pilots. So that's pretty much how the show goes off. You have pretty much everyone either dead or in the infirmary, and just West and Hawks are the only two that survive. So with that recap of the show, I was thinking about how would you bring the show back then if only two people survived? Well, one is, it's sci-fi, so you could have it that they didn't die. The people didn't die and bring them back, and fast forward 28 years and they're living their life. Maybe they've all gone their separate ways. They left the military service. Because, you could have it that the three that were presumed dead were hurt pretty badly. And, so they left and they're living their life. Another option, so the show could be like that. And they wouldn't necessarily have to be the stars of the show. With that in mind, they could be related to the people who are going into the military now. And maybe they don't want their people going into the military, or it could be that they're there to help, or they could have them not retired. They're still in the military at different ranks. And maybe one's a trainer now, teaching everyone, and the lieutenant colonel is now an admiral. He's there helping them train and all that stuff. They could pick up that way, like everyone survived, and they're there training everyone. But that one doesn't really appeal to me, doing that. I think another way would be, again, fast forward 28 years. The reason I'm saying 28 years, that's how long the show's been off the air. So fast forward 28 years. And you could have it that the lieutenant colonel survived. He's an admiral now, and he's in charge of the fleet. And you could have it, I would say West is still in the military and Hawks is left. He's off doing something else. Maybe he's a mercenary, something like that. And you could have it that one of them is suffering from PTSD, like Hawks or West is suffering from PTSD. And you could still bring back the characters that are dead. What's going on is the one that's suffering from PTSD actually sees them on a regular basis in his head. He interacts with them. They have families and all this stuff. He's created this whole other world where everyone's still together. They're still friends, living their best life. I'll probably go with Hawks if I'm having that character leave. Or whichever character left the military, I would have that character suffering from it. And they wouldn't necessarily be committed because they kept it to themselves and they haven't told anyone. And that could be the premise, part of the show as well, where they're going through that and trying to figure out what's wrong with this person, why they're acting the way they are. And also with that, they could still have a whole new cast because they have the new people coming in, training them, getting them ready for a potential war that may be coming, just like last time. And so you still have the old and the new together working and getting ready for what's to come. Now, I will say one thing about the actors that I did discover is that Morgan Weiser actually doesn't act anymore. The last time it was listed that he was active was 2010. Now, the others are still all listed as active. So if he didn't want to come back, they could actually kill his character off too. Or worst case scenario, they could replace his character if he didn't want to come back, replace him with a different actor, and they could still do the PTSD thing and just have it that he died in another battle, and that it's Hawks that's suffering from all this. And, he's retired now, but he's still suffering from all this. And in his mind, they're all still together living their best life. And the Admiral could also be checking in on Hawks, because Admiral and Hawks are both tanks or nipple necks. And so the Admiral's checking in on him, make sure he's all right. And, that's part of the story. And it focuses on him and the new people getting trained. So it's all kind of going together, and maybe convinces Hawk to come back and be a trainer and help the new trainees. And that could be kind of the focus of him in the shows, that he's learning to deal with the fact that his friends are gone. And he has to now train his new generation to get used to losing people. So that's one way they could bring it back. Another option is, again, fast forward 28 years and bring back none of them, and the whole new cast of characters. Don't recast anyone, just bring out all new people. And it just picks up 28 years, and it shows we're not necessarily at peace, but we have like a non-aggression act or something like that, to where we're not at war, officially not at war. And just go from there, and can progress the storyline, even show that a new alien race, like they met, like, I wouldn't go overboard with how many aliens. I would say maybe 3. They met 3 other alien races, and maybe the 4th one is the one that decides to attack all of them or cause problems, and they kind of all have to get together and fight this new alien race because it's overpowering everybody. So that could be one premise of the show. Again, don't want to go too overboard. I think one of the things I liked about the show is, even though it was sci-fi, it kind of didn't feel like a sci-fi show. It's hard to explain that. It was like watching a military show is what it felt like. Just, it took place in space. And I think that's one of the things that appealed to me with, like, even Babylon 5 and Battlestar Galactica, is that it had that military aspect, but it was just in space. And that's what Space Above and Beyond felt like. And of course, the other option is a whole new cast, a retelling of the story, all new actors. Now the show got 23 episodes originally. If they can still get 23 episodes, what they could do is just retell the stories, maybe flush some of the stories out. I can't really think of any stories off the top of my head that really need rewritten too much, but they could rewrite it a little here and there, maybe make it a little crisper, a little better, or fill out some of the stories that they feel they maybe didn't get a chance to tell all the way through. Things like that. Or if they go, say the producers or the owners of the show go back and they say, you know what, I wanted to focus more on this story, they could do that, things like that. So basically, some of the ways I thought it was like, pick up where it left off, just fast forward 23 years, or the other option, completely retell the story with a whole new cast. And one of the things I do remember about the show is the CGI was not that bad. For the time, it was really good. And so if they were to do CGI now with it, the visual quality of it would be amazing. So yeah, this is once again another show I would like to see come back. And I think it would be interesting if this was a show to come back, how they would do it. Because like I said, there's really a couple ways you could do it, like I suggested. The most common way they do shows anymore is a completely new cast. But I really would like to see them just kind of bring it back, fast forward 28 years, or however many years they want to fast forward, and have it take place, after the war, and just kind of have it go on. And again, they don't have to bring in a whole bunch of aliens. They could have it. It's been 28 years, and the only other alien race are the Chigs, and then the Chigs get attacked, and the Chigs think it's the humans, so the humans and the Chigs go back to war, and then it's later discovered there's a third race out there, and they're the ones they purposely started a war between them, but by the time they figure it out, both sides are getting attacked by this alien race because they've weakened each other, and now they got to join together to fight this third race. So they could do something like that. Now that's my take on remaking Space Above and Beyond.